Yo, what is going on everyone? Jay here. Welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, I want to talk about Bitcoin. That Bitcoin halving is coming up in the next few weeks. Most people think it's going to happen in or around April 19th, but it could come a week earlier or a week later. Nobody actually really knows when the halving is going to happen. I also want to talk about my Bitcoin price prediction for 2024 and my Bitcoin prediction for 2025. Am I investing in Bitcoin or am I investing in some of the miners like CleanSpark? All right, stay tuned. Let's break down some Bitcoin. Before we get into the halving, I just want to talk a little bit about Bitcoin and my strategy that I've been implementing the last year or so. So Bitcoin is year to date up 44%, and the last year up 133%, but I was invested in a company called CleanSpark. It's about $20 a share now, and I was telling people to buy back in the $4 range. In the past year, CleanSpark is up over 600%, and even year to date, we're up 80%. Are we kind of getting a little extended? I think so. And what I'm doing with my CleanSpark shares now, I'm kind of straddling. I'm selling some covered calls, and I'm also selling some puts around that $15 range and kind of winning on both sides of the strategy. Since the top, we're down around, 12-ish% from the new all-time high that was like around $73,000 per Bitcoin. So, what am I doing with Bitcoin going forward? Okay, I'm nibbling away at Bitcoin because I think we have about another year runway of gains for Bitcoin. If you look at the halving charts from Bitcoin, they're extremely predictable. So you really want to pay attention to what I'm talking about right now, and it'll kind of set you up and have an exit strategy for Bitcoin in the near future. So if you look at all the halvings, right, in 2013, we ran up for about a year to 2014, and then we had a considerable pullback for the next few years. The same thing happened. It was like in the middle of 2016 when we had the other halving. We ran up, for about a little over a year and a half. And then we had a considerable pullback from like the middle of 2018 to 2020. Then we had another halving in 2020. And then we had a nice run up for about a year. And then we had that other pullback again. And then we started to come back up right before we're going to have another halving in 2024. So I'm expecting Bitcoin to run for about another year to a year and a half from now. So we're talking about 2025 to the middle of 2025, around May, June, maybe even up into the fall of 2025. But then at the end-ish of 2025, I'm thinking we're going to have another considerable pullback of Bitcoin. Are we going to see another considerable pullback around 60 or 70% like a lot of these pullbacks the year to year and a half after the halvings before? I think we could, but with these ETFs and these big giant companies piling millions and millions and millions of dollars into these ETFs, the Bitcoin price might stabilize a little bit. So we might only see like a 25% pullback, but I'm not sure how much these ETFs are going to capitulate if like something crazy happens with Bitcoin. If they start to see a slide, are they going to exit too and make the slide even worse? That could happen as well. Maybe we'll go down 75-80% before the next big run happens. But I don't foresee that happening till the mid or end of 2025. So, what is my Bitcoin prediction for 2024? We're trading right around $64,000 per coin. I think we're going to get another new all-time high before the end of 2024. My price prediction is in that $80,000 to $85,000 range. And then for the end of 2025, I think Bitcoin could be between $150,000 and $200,000. And then towards the end of 2025, we need to have an exit strategy because that price decline is going to happen. It always happens. So we need to be aware that in 2025 sometime, probably towards the mid to later half of the year, we might want to start to exit some of our positions like CleanSpark and Bitcoin and just kind of wait it out for the next year or so, and then we can start to slowly accumulate back into cryptos like Bitcoin and Ethereum. Next up, I want to talk about what is the halving and what you need to know to best prepare yourself for the craziness that's about to happen in the next few months. I found this great article on Fortune Crypto that kind of gives us all the things we need to know to prepare ourselves for the halving that's coming up. What is the halving? What's going to actually happen? It says for every 4 years, Bitcoin undergoes a halving. The article says it cuts the daily supply of newly minted coins by 50%. That's not necessarily true. It's more that it's 50% harder to mine the Bitcoin. If a ton of people are still mining Bitcoin, they're going to be mining Bitcoin, but at a 50% slower pace. So it doesn't really necessarily cut the supply by 50%. It just makes the ability for these miners to actually mine a Bitcoin 50% harder. It says Bitcoin has already climbed 60% this year, reaching all-time highs of over 72,000 in March. This has been driven by investors flocking to newly launched ETFs that allow them to buy Bitcoin in the form of shares on stock exchanges. But it's also likely because markets know diminished supply from the halving could rally demand, and if history repeats itself, Bitcoin could outdo its 2021 bull run by a significant margin. And I agree with that. That's why I think we could see the $68,000 price go to $85,000 or $95,000 by the end of the year. But since we've already seen a new all-time high before the halving, things might play out a little different. Just because a lot of the demand for Bitcoin has been met over the last 6 months. Once these ETFs got launched, people already started running the pile in. It's not like the last halvings when these ETFs didn't exist. Now that they do exist, we don't know what the demand's going to be like after the halving. We could even see a little bit of a crash pullback, like a flash pullback, for a couple weeks, and then before we see a big run up. I do think it's going to run up because supply is not going to be there. It's 50% harder to mine new Bitcoin, and Bitcoin, obviously by this price running up, it's hard for them to meet the demand of all the people and funds that want to buy Bitcoin. What is the halving? Every time a new block is added to the Bitcoin blockchain, the contributor is given some Bitcoins as a reward. This block reward initially consisted of 50 Bitcoins, but due to a feature of Bitcoin's code, the amount is cut in half every 4 years. Previous halvings saw the block reward cut to 25 Bitcoins, then to 12.5, then to the current allotment of 6.25. The halving set for April will see the reward cut to 3.125 Bitcoins for the same amount of energy and work. That's why people like Kathy Wood think Bitcoin can go to like $500,000, $600,000 per coin. And philosophically, and if you just run the numbers mathematically, it's very easy for Bitcoin's numbers to get over $500,000 per coin. So far, there's been 3 Bitcoin halvings: November 28th, 2012, July 6th, 2016, and May 11th, 2020. Will the halving go on forever? It says no. The reward will continue to diminish until it reaches 1 Satoshi, equivalent to 0.0000001 Bitcoin. Bitcoin's source code will only ever produce 21 million Bitcoins. The majority, about 19 million Bitcoins, have already been mined. So that only leaves about 2 million Bitcoins left to be mined. But over the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, it's going to be considerably harder to mine Bitcoins. And they estimate this process is going to continue until 2140. I will be super dead by that point, so that doesn't really matter to me. But in the short term, I think 2024, we could see Bitcoin between $85,000 and $100,000, and then in 2025, up to around $200,000, in my opinion, before we start to see another pullback, which will take us, say if we're at 200,000, probably back down to that 100,000 per coin-ish range, giving 10 or 20,000 on each side of the coin. So what am I doing right now? I'm slowly accumulating Bitcoin and Ethereum. Ethereum spot ETFs are being applied for, so that could be really great for Ethereum. But Bitcoin, I think the best strategy for me is to buy the miners like CleanSpark. I really love CleanSpark. I've had really great gains with CleanSpark over time, and I'm making really good money selling puts and covered calls. Weeklies, don't go out too far, because if it runs like a mother, you could get screwed. So just a couple weeks, so you have to buy it back. You won't get screwed too hard. So that's what I'm doing with Bitcoin. I'm nibbling away $25, $50, $100 every couple weeks, just to, gain a little bit, because we don't know what's going to happen. This, with the ETFs, we've never seen a halving where all this institutional ownership has already been had. So with this current run up, there's a lot of variables. So don't get too all invested in crypto, because you can get busted out. We could see a considerable pullback after the halving before another run-up. We don't really know what's going to happen, so be cautious. That's why I like investing in the Bitcoin miners. CleanSpark is my favorite. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see more Bitcoin and Ethereum type of videos on this channel. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.